One of the things we also asked in our survey was a very simple question. We asked it of clients, law firms, as well as law students. And we asked a simple question: are law firms too profitable? Here's the result. Okay? Private practice lawyers, are they too profitable? There's a big difference of opinion between law firms and the clients they serve, whether or not. Michael, are law firms too profitable?
No, I gotta say, I'm indifferent to the profitability of law firms. It seems to me the law firms ought to make as much money as they want to make, that they can make. That's fine with me. I care about what I get charged for what they're doing and what I'm getting from it. And if they can charge me what I'm willing to pay for it, and they can have average partner income of $15 million a year, more power to them. So my answer to that question is no.
And Martin, I'll actually ask you something. One of the questions on the survey as well was, are clients too concerned with reducing costs? And some of the results of the survey that we have are a little bit too much. Are they being responsive to lowering costs given the recession, as well as how many corporate counsel have actually asked the law firms to reduce, and how many actually have? There's a big disparity between the two. So are clients and law firms off on controlling costs, or are they just talking in different languages about things?
Yeah, I would look at it more in view of, I think clients are increasingly, and they should, demanding they get what they pay for. Because what we saw, I call it a non-virtuous cycle, but when associate salaries went way up, then the law firm partners say, well, you got to move their billable targets up and their billing rates up. And then how do you make your target? You do high volume, low complexity work like a document review, due diligence. And the clients go, wait a second, I'm paying how much an hour for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing? Don't put any first or second years on my case. And then now I have to pay first and second years more money because they have a terrible job. And they don't get to do any work, and they're not engaged, and it just keeps going round and round. I think when you think about big companies, they will pay, but they got to get what they're paying for. So I don't think it's a matter, and I think it sometimes is short-sighted, like only bill for one person at a meeting, or these kind of, or no first years on my case, these kind of almost reactionary rules of let's get the cost down. I think more should be focused on, am I getting what I pay for? And to go to kind of Peter's analogy, I think the better candy analogy is the Willy Wonka one, where the law firms go, okay, give me 400 candy bars, I'm going to rip them all open, I'll keep the 2 with the golden ticket and get rid of the rest. Enormously wasteful way to deal with people. I think what you have to start saying is, give me 30 candy bars and I'm going to train them, and they're all going to be golden tickets, and it's going to be better for you, it's better for me, and I'm not wasting all this money on human capital.
Bill, the funny thing in the survey, when we asked law students what their biggest concerns with the number 1 and number 2 concerns of the industry, they said pricing and fees and compensation and salaries. Why are students concerned about pricing and fees when it comes to law firm when they're not even practicing yet?
I think that they see it because it redounds to their eventual salary. What you see from the movement from this lockstep system to the competency-based system is basically shifting the risk of performance or lack of performance onto the associates, and the students are fundamentally scared to death. I think that, unfortunately, what's taken place over the last several decades is people have begun to think of law firms and large associate hiring classes in an organic state, but this is really an artifact of the last 40 years. You go back to 1948, 4% of all lawyers in private practice were associates in law firms. The vast majority of people graduated from law school and became general practitioners. In the 1930s, the dean of Yale Law School was frightened about price competition because most of his graduates became general practitioners in Connecticut. I mean, we're living in a different world right now, and I think the students are pretty bright, and they see the economics, and that's why they care.
Well, I know there's a number of people in the media here that have obituaries pre-written for this billable hour, and we keep hearing about the hot topic is alternative fee arrangements. Sign of the times, sign of shape of things to come, or something that's just going to be debated for a little while and then move along?
I became managing partner about a dozen years ago, but before that, I had the good fortune of being the relationship person at the beginning of the DuPont legal model. And I was basically taken to the woodshed by one or two DuPont people in the mid-90s, saying that if you don't get onto this alternative fee thing, you know, you guys are going to be toast, because that's part of the model. And we started thinking about it back then. We actually wrote some articles on it and so on and so forth. It became embedded in our culture. And to the extent this year, something like 30% of our revenues will be alternative fee generated. Now, in that time frame, until relatively recently, if you want to talk about changes, we were making more money on our AFAs than we were on our billable rates. Greater realization. Why? Because the incentives were aligned. We were being real, you know, everything these guys say. But as we tried to take that model to other clients, we were stuffed. And I think I've been guilty so far in this conversation, and probably more generally, of treating clients monolithically. And one change, I would say, it's been more than 6 months, but maybe 12 to 18 months, is a profoundly more open attitude of, within law departments, corporate law departments, to alternative fee arrangements. They were so comfortable with the billable hour, they may rail against it, but it was a great management tool. Laid out, you know, went to the bathroom, point one. I mean, who can deal with that? And, you know, you would have people, middle-level people, lower-level people in law departments calling you up and saying, I think you could have gotten that done in 3 meetings or 3 telephone calls instead of 4. And it was and is a crazy way of approaching managing the interface. And so I think the client community's openness to alternative fees now, which is increasing daily, is going to cause more law firms to go in that direction, and we're going to be a much more value-add oriented pricing collection of relationships in the market than we've ever been before. And that can only, and then the market will govern as to what the rate of the consumption of GDP will be. You know, and I think double figures, Tom, I think that double figures would be great. Only if the market dictates it and your managements believe in order to do business the way they want to do business around the world, they need to get the legal thing right.
The in-house counsel group, industry, or whatever you want to call it, we've been horrible at this, honestly. We've been talking, I agree with you completely, Peter. We've been talking about alternative fee arrangements for years, and we've dabbled with it. But then we've been, you know, when you get right up to the edge, it's sort of like, I'm not sure I really want to do that, right? It's kind of like this anxiety about it. And I think part of it gets back to something that Mike was talking about, which is, you know, the sort of customer intimacy, that I think we've disaggregated the model in such a way that it's become more commoditized. And I actually believe that to achieve true synergies and growth, you actually have to create a better model of customer intimacy between law firms and law departments. And when you do that, it doesn't matter what you call the fee arrangements. They're called alternate fees because it's, you know, we had a certain model for a long period of time, the billable hours. 50 years ago, if you had said an hourly rate, that would have been an alternate fee, right? It doesn't really matter. It matters what value you're getting for the cost that you are paying, right? And so how you do that, I think, is going to have to be, there's no magic bullet here. Unfortunately, we can't sort of say, okay, here is the model that's going to be perfect for everything. It really comes back down to what do you have to do day to day between, you know, 2 partners, law firm and company, to get it right.